Yes, there we go, good people. Who wants to go? Who wants to kick that off?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Go for it.
Today I am feeling irritated. Um, yeah, tired and irritated. It's my feeling today. You know, when a little thing irritates you, and then so the next thing comes along, and the next thing comes along, and then it becomes a big ball of irritation, and you just want to say, "Oh, fuck off." um, do you want me to expand on that, or wait until everyone's checked in?
So let's just focus on building the container,
Okay.
and then we'll see where it goes. Who are you tagging, Katie?
Oh, sorry, Charlie, please.
Thank you, Katie. I am checking in elated, excited, all those words I can't put into meaning right now. My daughter, who I hadn't seen, who was the last seen since she was 3, she's now 16, contacted me on Saturday. She found me on Saturday, and I met her for the first time in 13 years, yesterday. And I'm still in cloud 9, if I'm honest with you. I'm still like, what has just happened in my recovery?
Oh,
thanks.
Talk about cracking my heart open and making me want to burst into tears. Fuck. Who are you taking, Charlie?
I'm going to take Aya.
I'm feeling really good. I'm a bit tired because I've been working the past 2 weeks. I've worked 78 hours, so I'm a bit knackered. But I'm feeling very good and motivated. That's really good, that Charlie. That's made my day. Made my day. I'll go for Emma.
Well, I don't know, mixed emotions. I'm excited, but I'm making sure I don't get overwhelmed. At the same time, as with my ADHD, I'm just Tasmanian devil. So I'm trying to slow myself down because I don't want to trip myself up. But yeah, all in all, I'm feeling good, positive, looking forward, and enjoying the weather like Charlie. But yeah, so I don't know who else is on to tag.
So there's Kai, there's Jit, there's Simon, and then there's myself.
I'll tag Jet.
Hi everyone. Sorry I'm late. I was just on Power Automate course. Yeah. I'm good. Sohan sends his apologies. Unfortunately, he's got a lot on today. Yeah, things have been all right. Steady week actually. No ups, no downs. Just how I like it really. I'm trying to think, who do I tag? David.
Who did you tag?
Yourself.
Oh, yeah, I didn't hear it, so I'm having a coughing attack. I'm having KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken crisps. Have you ever come across them?
No.
But you Kentucky Fried choking.
I'm getting over the flu, and I had quite an intense meeting this morning with the South African Defence Force.
Wow.
They've got 4 divisions. They've got the infantry, they've got the Air Force, the Navy, and the medical side. And I went in there to do to talk to them about the concept of recovery coaching and working with their social workers in training in the skill and what we're doing, and so that we can do better work in communities. So that was quite anxiety provoking and exciting. So I check in with excitement. Kai?
I'm checking in quite good. We've had quite a good day today. We've got a summer fair on, so you'll probably hear kids screaming, but It's been good. Been selling hot dogs at fucking stink of onions and processed meat, but I think I've enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah, just doing. In general, the week's been pretty good. Just nothing really to note, and that's sometimes the best type of week. I'll tag Katie.
Already been, my dear. So, Simon.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm checking in well. A little bit like just a nice settled week, but I'm enjoying that contentment and no kind of really high highs or low lows, just rolling with it at the moment. And Charlie, brilliant news. I'm over the moon for you.
Thank you, Simon.
Okay, so Katie, how's her feeling in the container? If you were to step back and just get make an assumption, I guess, on the vibe in the room.
I would say it's quite a positive space. I think people are feeling in the main pretty positive, pretty balanced.
Good stuff. Okay, so you're reading the container. Yep. You've got everyone to check in. You've got a, yep. Was there any homework from last week? Was there any kind of anything that's we needed to be accountable for? Does anyone remember? Because I don't.
No, I don't think there's anything, was there?
No.
Okay, so well done everyone for completing your homework. That's good. That's fantastic. All right. So the next thing is what's the agenda? So what are we going to talk about today? So the agenda always comes from the client, but the overall arch of what we're doing here is we're teaching recovery coaching within an organization. Yeah. So there are 5 things. There's a coaching conversation, there's a continuum, there's a system, there's the 4Q leadership model, and then there's the container. So the overall contract that we have is to teach those skill sets. Yeah. And last week we spoke about grief and loss and how we all get kind of impacted by that. Remember that?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. I must admit, my personal preference is not to go somewhere like that today, but I've no idea where it's going to go. So the agenda always comes from the client. Yeah? So where would you like to go today?
Excuse me. Well, I'd like to discuss a topic, but I think
Okay.
if it's okay. Well, doing this lived experience is amazing and everything. And I've been in a meeting this morning, and quite a few of the people are finding it difficult to balance the friendship, professional friendship relationship. Where does it stop? Where does it end? And with you having sympathy for these people and compassion and everything, you understand where they're coming from. Sometimes you still need them boundaries, and they're finding it very difficult to set these boundaries, know when to stop. Like cut people off when they're being abusive, because they're under the influence or whatever. And they're having a hard time, but they have to put in place those boundaries professionally, and they're all feeling bad about it. And I was trying to explain to them, and I was just wondering if anybody else has that problem. I don't seem to have that problem. I don't know if it's because I'm horrible, but I just understand when to say, right, that's affecting me in the wrong way, because I've still got to look after myself. I mean, it's kind of a clause with lived experience poses professional. Does that make sense?
What a fantastic topic. Yeah. So one thing I want to just say is we've all got lived experience here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're doing by the training is learning how to turn that lived experience into a profession.
Yeah.
And how do you know when you're a professional? When you start to get paid for doing something.
Yeah.
So an amateur golfer becomes a professional golfer when they start to get paid for playing golf. Yeah. And what we're trying to do here with the training is to bring some professionalism to lived experience.
Mhm.
Yeah. Whether people agree with it or not, this is what we're fucking doing in this household. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and managing boundaries and getting clarity around what I'm paid for and what I'm not paid for is very, very important. Yeah. This is not sponsorship. People that go to 12-step fellowships, that transaction is one of spirituality. I'll teach you the steps and I'll feel good about myself by giving away what was freely given to me. Yeah. And the fellowships work wonderfully. This is not that though. This is what my experience was. Yep. This is what my job role is and my career is. Yep. This is what you're engaging me with. And this is the outcome. Okay. So first of all, we're not psychologists. Oh, sorry. We're not clinical psychologists. Yep. We're not social workers. We're not counselors. We're not doctors. We're not any of those other roles unless you've been professionally trained in that. Is anyone here a professional social worker, counselor, clinical psychologist? I know Jit's in IT. I was also in IT. Is that correct, Jit? Yeah.
I've got my university diploma in forensic psychology, but
Oh, there you go. Okay.
yeah, I was trying to explain to these people that like there's a professional boundary, you know, you can be a friend, we're there to pick you up when you fall, but until then, because this person was receiving abuse on Messenger and everything, and she said, I don't know what, I said, it's okay to feel like, because she's in recovery as well, it's okay to say, right.
Who's your client, Emma?
Sorry?
Who's your client? Who's the person you're talking about?
It's honestly just it's a friend within a group, and voluntarily she's took on.
So you're talking to a friend, and that friend is struggling with someone who's being abusive.
Yeah. And she's in a voluntary role, and she feels the need to. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So you're engaging with a volunteer.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And are you paid in your role, if I may ask?
No, not right now. I'm being a friend to her. More of a shoulder cry on right now.
Yeah, but I mean, are you work employees? Do you work together in the same organization, or are you?
Yeah, we do, yeah.
So you have a working relationship together?
Yeah, in a voluntary status.
Great. Okay, cool. All right. What a wonderful topic. Okay. And you say you're okay with setting boundaries?
Yeah, because I've worked with mental health patients I used to work on an ambulance, private ambulance, and I worked in mental, you know, and there's a professional boundary that I set for myself where like, I don't mind just talking to them and when they're down, I don't mind doing this, but there comes a point where I'll say to them, you know, when they're saying they're going to do something or whatever, I'll say, right, I'm not equipped to deal with this. There's the crisis team number, or there's this. I will talk to you when you know, when you're off your drugs or alcohol. Yeah. So I've given them the means necessary for them to get the help for that situation. But at the same time, I've got to protect my sobriety and I've got to keep myself safe and I've got to make sure they're safe. But I give them the tools that's the way I sort of like, you know, I'm not saying I'm never going to speak to them again, but these are more equipped to deal with your situation kind of thing. And there's all the info you need.
So this is out of my scope of practice.
Yeah.
Yep. This is where you need to go, but this is out of the scope or the role that I'm covered in. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also set boundaries. Like I do have a code of ethics. Whereas if you're going to say you're going to kill yourself, I have to do something about it. But, you know, this is, you know, just setting the boundaries to begin with. Okay. But I will not accept, I'm not a punchbag, I will not accept abuse, you know, and things like that. professional boundaries, and yeah, I just wondered if
Alright.
anybody else has issues with that.
So we're just going to pause for a second there, and
Mhm.
Katie's going to check in Lisa. So Katie, you good to welcome Lisa into the container?
Yes. Hello, Lisa. Would you like to check in with how you're feeling today?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's thrown me totally. I don't even know why you have invited me to your container. I'm okay, thank you. I am working, multitasking here. So yeah, I'm feeling fine.
Okay. And Katie, would you like to summarize what the topic is that's emerged?
Yeah, Emma has just brought the topic of boundaries, particularly when you're in lived experience, because it's difficult. You have kind of a professional friendship with people, and it's difficult sometimes to maintain those professional boundaries within that relationship. So we've just started discussing that.
So it's what was the last thing you ended with, Emma? You said, has anyone else got any experience with this or would
Yeah.
like to add? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see what's in the container. Let's see what the wisdom is.
I don't know if it's wisdom, but I think I can certainly agree with kind of being new to kind of supporting people. It's been difficult from like the lived experience point of view, is you can almost empathize a little bit too much with their situation, and it's drawn that professional boundary, and learning to do that is something I'm still in the process of doing. So I can kind of sympathize with that.
Thank you, Simon. So it does take practice.
Yeah.
I would support that. And for me, I always had the feeling of like I've sold out somehow. You
Yeah.
know, I was a poacher turned gamekeeper. Like, who do I think I am? Am I like a goody, or am I like a, have I become a religious? Like, what the, that identity that I had, yeah, when I was using, I was able to build rapport. And then when I stopped, it's like that boundary, it's like, I
Took
kind
a
of
while.
got really identified. And so I would leak. And by the way, I'm fucking shit at boundaries. Still.
I'm a terrible people pleaser, or I have been a terrible people pleaser. So I've always been terrible at saying no. So my boundary just went right over my head. People could probably gauge me, and they could probably like just leap over my boundaries, and I would scream at myself instead of sorting out the boundary there and then. I would tear myself to shreds because I could never implement boundaries. I was terrible at it, and I'm probably still am pretty bad at it. But I'm in the fellowship of AA, where there isn't so much in my boundaries, and there being a sponsee of 4 lads. I sometimes question my own boundaries and how far to take this, because in AA it's about helping people to the maximum limit that you can possibly do. And I think, this is one of the reasons that I came into the recovery coaching and stuff like this, is to try and regain boundaries and learn off the container, especially with my terrible people pleasing.
Okay, so if I could just build on that a bit, yeah. Hopefully the organizations you work with, yeah, there'll be clarity around what the role is, and there'll be some kind of like policies or guidance or code of conduct or ethical behavior around that. Yeah. To protect whom?
Yourself and the client.
Exactly. Yourself and the client and the organization. Now, the interesting thing is to see how the organization carries out those policies when people step out of the boundary.
Yeah. Do you not think if sometimes when you overstep the boundaries, it's in a way of, I don't know if this is right, but enabling?
Enabling, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, can you hear me okay? There's some building work. Can you, yeah, okay. I think sometimes you can do more harm than good. If you are continually trying to do your best to rescue someone, you don't allow them to reach the place they need to reach to start working back up again. I think sometimes you can, you can endeavour to save people and it actually doesn't do them any favours, because all the time they've got those people to hang on to and reach out to, they're not actually going to do the stuff themselves. I had an experience early on in my recovery. This was way before professional stuff, of supporting someone and actually it was really detrimental to me. A lot of things were done and it was a very early lesson. I'm still not great at boundaries because, like you, Charlie, I'm a people pleaser, but I have learned that limit. Sometimes I might go right up to the limit, but pretty much I don't go over it now. And again, I think it's experience. I think it's learning and learning what your own boundaries are. That's my experience.
Yeah, because I think when we're helping people in recovery. And when they're under the influence, quite often, you know, when they're drunk, or I'm going to use drunk as an example, when they're drunk and that, they can be abusive, they can be, and you're not there to help them with that. You're not there to condone or justify how they're feeling in that moment. Yeah, you're there to help them, give them support, but the kind of support you've got to separate from the support from when they're sober. Like the support when they're drunk and when they're, you know, whatever, is pointing them in the right direction, in my sense. Like, I will take so much, but then there's a line where I've got to say, right, okay, that's where you need to be. When you're sober, come back to me and I will talk to you about in recovery. You know, I'm not there to be a punch bag. I'm not there to be, like David said, I'm not a psychologist, you know, counsellor or anything like that. I'm not a clinical mental health worker or anything like that. So I think it's about knowing what your role is, to be fair. I don't know how anyone else feels about that.
So I feel the container's certainly talking about a very important topic. Yeah. I think boundaries are very important in terms of professionalism and role clarity of where we show up within the system. Yeah. And how we show up when somebody is clearly under the influence, yeah, would be different to how we would show up when they're sober. Yeah. The challenge for me though is when do people want to stop taking drugs?
Yeah.
It's when they're taking drugs. My girlfriend, every morning, I would have told you this before, she loves her nicotine. Yeah, she wakes up every morning, lights a cigarette and goes, I've got to give these up, babe. like the only time, like, you know, like she needs that hit. Yeah. So I would just have some consideration of where we're meeting people at. The priority is your own personal safety first, above everyone else. Yeah. That's what I would. That's what I advocate for the people here in the clinic. Yeah. And we also need to have the tolerance to kind of understand and be empathetic and to build rapport, not to enable, but also not to shame and stigmatize and build.
Yeah,
But it's a fuck up. It's really difficult at times.
it is.
I mean, one of the things is, you know, we give our lived experience, and you know, sometimes we say how well we're doing, and I think, is there a boundary on what we actually say when we're doing well and not doing well on that person? Because if I say I'm quite content as a person and that person's far from being content in their life, am I hindering them? It's just something that came up this week and I had to think about it a bit. Am I doing more damage by saying that than just shutting my mouth and listening more? I don't know. It was just something I've been thinking about.
And what was the answer, Jit?
I brought it to the container. Yeah, I think, truthfully, I think it's on a case by case basis. Who
Right.
you're speaking to,
I would support.
seeing where they are, if they're drunk or high or not, or what their reaction is to suggestions, and does it antagonize them more, or does it just go straight over, or do they actually take it on board? Yeah, basically on a case by case basis, isn't it? To see not strength of the person, but to see where they are at that moment.
Yeah.
Conversation.
So
But
Yeah.
it flipped me the other day. It just really got me thinking on, am I doing more damage by saying a bit more, I guess, of my lived experience? You know, I don't know. Is that how we look at it, or is something do I need to put that boundary in straight away and say, just filter a bit of that lived experience through? I don't know. It's just
So what do other people think?
I think it's important to read, like you said, read the room, see how that person is at the time, and then go make your own choice from that, like your decision. I think that is important.
Okay. So Jit said to take it by case scenario.
Yeah.
I would support that thinking, looking after ourselves. And I think that the fact that there's consciousness, whether you're thinking, fuck, should I say this, shouldn't I? Should I put this? I think the fact that we've got that kind of safety mechanism there, Jit, is great. As opposed to just going, well, this worked for me and this is what I did and you need to do this and that. This is what to actually just have some consciousness around, is this helpful? Is this going to help build rapport with the person that you're working with? Yeah. And it's something I struggle with all the time in authentic leadership. Yeah. So I'm in a leadership position in my organization. And then some days I just feel so fucking depressed and anxious and miserable and useless and pathetic that I feel shit. Do I share this with the people, with my colleagues? And do I bring my authentic self? And when I do that, how does it impact them? Yeah. So for me, in my role as a leader, I want to be an authentic leader. I need to practice what I preach, but sometimes by doing that, it might have an impact. I mean, it particularly happened a lot over COVID, you know. And after my nephew had just suicided and my father had died, I was like fucked. Yeah. And I just didn't know how to lead without communicating what was going on in my heart and managing the impact that then has, because then people can get all worried, like, oh God, is David okay? And and then they don't focus on their job. Does that make sense? So So it become quite a systemic challenge.
What I found is that especially I'm going through the 12 steps of AA, connection and isolation, where if I find myself where I'm bottling stuff up, and I'm feeling that low, I'm not feeling myself, like, and there's some days I do, I'm feeling like that, and or if that feeling becomes a disturbance in my stomach, then I will pick up the phone, and I will phone, i.e., my sponsor, or I will phone a group of friends who are quite close. So we pick up the phone. We have got that bondship that I didn't know existed before getting sober. I didn't know there was a bondship or a kinship that actually existed, where you can pick up the phone to another alcoholic. Especially for me, it's got to be someone in addiction, because they get it. They absolutely get it. They're on my level. And don't get me wrong, man, this has been very much trial and error. This has been the first 6 to 9 months. I would never pick up the phone and discuss my feelings with anybody. But I found that if I didn't pick up the phone, it was me basically going back, and the opposite of connection, what I found was isolation. So the more I didn't pick up the phone, the more I wasn't connecting. And then I learned that the more that I pick up the phone and connected with people that were on my level, alcoholics and addicts who are sober, and I could unburden them, as I say, I would give them my anchor, and they would just take it. And the great thing about talking to other addicts at this sort of level is they don't want nothing back from you. I'm talking about addicts who is like friends of addicts. I'm not like a workforce or anything like that. And my people who I can trust it around me. And I found that has been a godsend to relieve any disturbance that I am feeling. So if I'm feeling disturbed, I know there's something not quite right. And the more that I talk it out, and I will also say to my other friends, I'll say, I'm just talking this out loud, so they know that I'm just expressing this out loud, that I'm not actually going to do this, or I'm not doing this. I'm just saying this to you to get it out there. And it's like releasing a pressure valve, and you go, it just, I found that is that connects me to the people around me.
So from a professional perspective, it would be professionally correct to go for supervision or supervision, where you've actually got a space for yourself to go to unload and to reflect and get some. So you're doing something very similar, Charlie. It's just the dynamics are slightly different, because you're doing it with fellowship people as opposed to work colleagues or a professional supervisor in your organization. It's like a priest go to, I guess priests that listen to a lot of confessions, they would have to go and what's the word I want? Deconfess. I can just, and these things are, this is part of professional boundaries and role definitions.
I found coming into this as becoming a professional as opposed to being in a voluntary position, that I did have to reassess my boundaries. However, I do find to have that honest human approach, not sitting in a room of volunteers and saying, oh, this is what's going on for me, but when you have personal interactions, personally, I have found a solution to my addiction, to my alcoholism, and that's okay. But mentally, I'm still a bit fucked. and I own that. You know, I can be I don't know, maybe a positive influence on people who are trying to find recovery, because despite being still mentally a bit fucked, I don't have to pick up a drink or a drug. So I can share that experience, but I can share that life doesn't have to be perfect, or I don't have to be fully put together to not have to descend back into addiction again. So I think that's quite an important personal thing to get across, because otherwise I suffer from that imposter syndrome. I do think, who am I to help you guys when I still have struggles? But it's the balance, isn't it? You know, I don't have the struggles, touch wood, with addiction, so I can give my experience within that and still own the other stuff.
So Katie, I really think you modeled that beautifully. If I've got it correctly, you've got substance use disorder combined with, is it agoraphobia?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got a dual diagnosis. You've got two things. And the way that you shared your experience now, where you covered both topics, I thought was very contained and boundarized and professional. And I liked the way, I liked the way you said, I'm mentally fucked still, as a joke. As a joke, it stretched me, and straight away I wanted to come in and kind of say, well, you're really like stretching yourself mentally and really doing, yeah. And the reason I like that language was it didn't feel too clinical, and it felt human still. Yeah. But it still felt contained and professional for me.
Thank you.
How did other people experience Emma now? Katie, sorry. All right, well, that was a fuck up.
I find, I mean, there's like two sides to it, isn't there? Like recently I lost a friend who reached out to me, and I was a friend to him, but I was also in a professional manner. And then I also had survivor's guilt for a bit, because did I do enough? But it was too much for me. You know, you go through the argument in your head. So it is about finding a clear balance, because that did affect me. But like in the way that, did I do enough? You know, but yeah, it is difficult to find the balance when to say, you know, I can't do this, but also when to be professional about it and be compassionate. And it is a hard job, but it's, yeah.
So when do you guys realize you've kind of crossed out of the boundary? What feeling do you feel? So for me, let me just jump in and frap here, which isn't what I meant to be doing, but I get resentful. So I'm prone to people pleasing, and then it's like, oh fuck, it's this one again, and then I kind of hiya, and I become quite disingenuous, and I've moved along the continuum to kind of codependency side, I'm no more. So when I start to get resentful, which is an anger, which is the emotion that you need to use to create healthy boundaries. Healthy anger creates healthy boundaries. Dysfunctional anger, on the one hand, can go to people pleasing, or masochism, or the other way it goes to sadism, where people like really get off on like getting angry. But that's a very good indicator for you, as well, for me as a coach.
I get that anger, and also I'm feeling their feelings instead of actually being an outsider looking in and empathizing. I'm actually feeling it, and it's going round my head of a night time. That's when I know I'm too far in and need to come back a bit.
Sometimes when you question if you are helping at all.
Yep, I know that feeling well. Am I making a bloody difference? What's the point of all this? Hang on 1 second. You see, my people pleasing just caught me here. They came in and asked me to do a favor, and I said no. And they said, please. And, oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, where are we going? Kai, do you want to come in with your wisdom?
I'm not sure if it's wisdom, like, but I think in general, sort of when I know, like, okay, this isn't something, I don't know, for example, basically it's when I feel like I'm not actually equipped to deal with something. So it's outside of my scope. So, for example, one of the groups I run, and I felt like a dickhead doing it because it's not a nice thing to do. But there was one guy in there who was going quite a lot into like his childhood trauma and things like that. And I had to I felt awful for doing it, but I had to sort of stop him and say, like, this isn't, the sort of place for it, if that makes sense. I'm not a trauma therapist. I can help you if you want to, like access trauma therapy, because that's something we can help them with. But for the purpose of like this group, it isn't something that I can really help you with, or that it like kind of like it's not appropriate for this setting, if that makes sense. And like I felt horrible doing it. So I think I'm okay with setting boundaries and then keeping them, but I do also sometimes feel very like guilty about keeping them, if that makes sense. But I know for myself, both professionally, because again, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. It's not my, like, again, I sound like a Dixon, it's not my job type of thing, but professionally and personally as well, because I think I am somebody who does get a bit too invested in sort of people's, and that kind of like Katie was saying, that I'll go home and I'll still be thinking about it. Oh, I should have done this, I should have done that type of thing. So I think that's my only issue with sort of boundaries, is like I'm fine setting them, I'm fine keeping to them, but I also then feel like a bit of like a, sort of like an unsympathetic bastard sometimes when I have to actually say to somebody, this isn't the place for that.
So how do you keep yourself safe around that, Kai?
So I think the way I do it is basically just by kind of shutting it down, and then also when I'm outside of work, I'm outside of work. Like nothing comes home with me. The laptop doesn't come home with me. The phone doesn't come home with me. That type of stuff, that all stays there, because that's something I've struggled in with the past. I used to teach, and one of my biggest issues was I'd finish my day's work and then I'd come home and work for another 3 hours, and I ended up just burning out and that type of thing. So I think I've set a sort of boundary in myself of, it hits 4:30, I'm finished. I'm not looking at emails, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. That's it, type of thing.
So when it comes to holding a container, and someone starts to share their story, their trauma, it's quite a difficult thing to manage, I've found for myself at times, when I'm kind of so resilient to a whole lot of trauma stories, I forget how other people in the container might not be. Yeah. So it's I've often listened to holding the space, letting someone talk. Yeah, get it, and then look around the container, and everyone's got like kind of wide eyes, freaked out, and I so relate to feeling like a dick when you've got to kind of go, hang on a second, great, thank you so much for bringing this here. I'm going to ask you to just stop it there. We're going to carry on. I'll take that offline with you or something. And those are one of the professional responsibilities that I feel that is a skill set that we need to have when holding containers. So what is the container about? What's the contract? What are we here for? So you guys are here to learn about coaching, to integrate coaching into your work environment, and we're here for 2 hours. We'll take a break at the hour. We'll come back for the second hour, and the topic still comes from the container, but I am facilitating it around a training. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we were to create a container where we're going to talk about trauma or something, yep, we would create the container in a slightly different way. Jit, how do you create containers or groups that are more suitable to your community?
The biggest problem we have is it's a lack of wanting to have any sort of conversation around the subject of addiction. So what we actually did was, how do we break that? How do we open that door ajar slightly, just so people can see what the issues may be, and then actually open up slowly and feel a bit more comfortable to know that it's okay to talk about these things. So what I actually did was make a film about my journey in active addiction and in recovery. So I've been taking this to places of worship, universities, schools and colleges, especially aimed at South Asian communities where this conversation just does not happen. You're frowned upon if you have this conversation. You're stigmatized, you're laughed at, all of those sort of things. And it's quite a raw film in terms of some of the things I say that I went through and I'm still going through. It sort of opened their eyes to think, oh, wow, okay, we didn't know that. But now, a number of years later, most people actually only know this part of my journey, the recovery part, not the dark side, as I like to call it, So I think that opens a bit of conversation because I'm a changed person to that, and it gives others hope to say, I can be that. We know Jit like this. We don't know Jit when he was drinking and doing the drugs. So actually, he's all right. I'm hoping that's what they say. He's all right. So I think showing that film, putting others in the situation that I've been to experience that in terms of just what we say that we went through, I think that has slowly opened up a bit of conversation. It's a slow way of getting in there, but I think it's allowed that conversation to not fully happen, but enough for those people in those rooms or when we're talking about it to actually truly open up and say, yeah, I've got a member of my family like this, or the amount of phone calls and messages and stuff that I get compared to when the story wasn't out there, it is pretty amazing no, it's not amazing that there's a lot of people who are suffering. It's pretty amazing that people are coming out to say these things, especially when the community was so bad at discussing these sort of things. And to me, that how do I do it? It's by telling my story, I think, to allow others to accept that it is what it is. It's no difference to any of it. It's like diabetes or mental health. You know, there's a bit more conversation around that than there is addiction. So have I normalized that conversation a bit to those people I speak with? Potentially, yeah. I think. I don't know. Have I answered your question right? I mean, that's the way we've done it here in Leicester.
I'd like to add to your answer, if that's okay, just from the Clero meeting the other day, which I thought was brilliant, is that you've translated your work into a native language so people can come and speak in their own language as well. Yeah, and that's also very important. So for me, being here in Africa, when I work in a community where English is a second or third language, I don't need to understand what the person's saying. I'll often see them trying to like translate what's going on into English, and I'll just say, just talk in your own language, just da 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 da. And then it's a bit like Charlie who goes, I'm just talking, just shut up.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it's giving them the opportunity to express themselves, isn't it? Really, because that's what we're here for, as recovery coaches, to allow them to speak what's in their mind at that moment, I think, and direct the conversation if it needs directing to what we're trying to achieve. But yeah, when we had the people speaking in their own language, I say own language, in their native language, it's the same as mine. It really, for me, it really hit differently. Their shares were like, wow, this is like talking to my granddad or my uncle or someone who can speak it fluently, but really express themselves in a way that I can't do it, but I can understand it. And that to me was, it's really important to what we're trying to achieve, you know, and I think more organizations really have to do that, if we're going to help more people, otherwise we're not, you know. But I'll get off my soapbox on that bit.
Why? You're giving us a great wash.
I just think, you know what, it's about equity, you know. It's about equity, and we need our voice being heard. And I guess I'm one of the champions of it, because as well as Sohan and a few others, that we've come out of this bit, and we're still working on recovery, but we're here to shout about those who can't actually say what they want to say, because our community stigmatizes them in such a way that it's hindering them from being who they're meant to be, I think, or want to be. And I get quite passionate about this because I had to experience that for many a year, and I still have to experience it, but I stick two fingers up at those who want to say that to me now, because I'm a different person now.
Okay, everyone, it's 3 minutes to the hour. Let's just whip around with one thing that you've learned in this first hour about boundaries. Emma, let's start with you.
About it being individual case scenario. It's not for every case, and I knew that anyway. But you know, when it just needs.
Yeah. Okay. So case by case scenario.
Yeah. Case by case scenario. That's the struggle I had explaining it to this one person. You know. So yeah.
Great. What a great learning, Kai. What's your
just sort of some of the ways that people deal with, you know, the sort of taking it home type of thing. of ways to sort of avoid that. Like I've picked up a couple of little bits from what people are saying. That's
Right.
good.
So this is my job and this is home time.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Simon, are you there?
Yeah, I think just keeping those boundaries professional and reminding yourself of that. Like
Okay.
kind of like you've just said, this is my job, this is a profession. What should the boundaries be? And making sure you're sticking to that.
Great stuff. I see Kai's fighting with the boundary of the timer clock on the light. Katie?
The importance of self-knowledge and self-understanding.
Okay.
To learn your own limits.
So insight to your own limitations. Wonderful. Charlie?
Very much what Simon said, and the more like learning about our personal boundaries and our professional boundaries when we're in our work.
And Charlie, thank you for speaking in your mother tongue. I really appreciate it.
It's the best I could do.
Yeah, I'm just having fun here.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, good, great. Jit?
Boundaries aren't easy to set, and
Great.
everyone has difficulty in setting them. So don't feel as though you're the only one struggling to set boundaries.
Fantastic. Alia? All right, Lisa, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I think it's quite difficult because like what you've been saying about work and stuff, because all the stuff I do is voluntary, so it is difficult to have that boundary between like your free time and how much voluntary work there is to do. But very much can relate to some of the situations where you said you need to look after yourself first and that kind of thing. And I think again, it's if you lived experience organizations, it's the whole point of it is that we're sharing our information, whether that's good, bad, or ugly. But I think we definitely need to take a common sense approach and tailor it to individuals, because some people will want more from you than others.
Love that. Take a common sense approach. Fantastic. All right. 5 minutes or 8 minutes?
8.
So Charlie's obviously a vapor. Kit's just a tea person. All right, we'll do 7 minutes. 7 minutes
Mugged up.
plus.
There'll be a mugged up.
Malta.
Oh, I don't know how to get rid of this. Ugh.
Right, who's back? 7 minutes past.
Amber.
Aye.
Cool. So there's a boundary that we kept. That was an agreement.
Yep.
Okay. Alia's jumped off. She's had to go to the doctor, which is fine. There's Katie hiding her vape or her cigarette. Trying to get the smoke off the
Yes,
screen.
yes,
before-
putting out the cigarette.
All right. Who would like to build the container now? Okay. Who doesn't want to build the container? Guys, it's not so difficult. You just say, all right, we're going to check in. My name is so and so, and I check in feeling blah, 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 and I tag blue, blue, blue.
Oh, I'll do it. I'm Katie. I'm
Go,
feeling
Katie. 10 out
I'm-
of 10 for enthusiasm and jumping in there.
I'm feeling way less irritated than I was when I began. So thank you for that. I think, you know, being able to share a space with someone is great. So I'm very happy with that. And I will tag Emma.
Thank you. I am feeling, I'm not going to say fine, because David did tell me what that stood for. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling, yeah, I'm feeling good. And I'll tag Charlie.
Thanks, Emma. I am feeling okay. I'm feeling good. I love coming here on a Thursday and doing it. I'm feeling a bit grounded now than what I was before I came on. I was still like kind of up here, so it's just nice to come on here on a Thursday. It kind of grounds me. It kind of brings me back down to balance. And I will tag Kai.
Thank you. I'm feeling good. Got a slight headache. I don't know if you can hear it in the background or not, but I'm like a fucking disco out there. But other than that, I'm good. I'll tag Jit.
Hi, yeah, I'm still steady, actually. Feel better for being here, second week. I've forgotten all the stuff I did before this at work, so yeah, I feel all right. I feel good. I'll tag Simon in.
I'm feeling positive. I enjoyed that first hour and feel like I'm in a good learning zone. And I'll tag Emma.
I've already been.
Lisa,
Right,
Lisa's
cool. Lisa.
Hello. Yeah, first session. Mainly listening, to be honest. Just taking it all in.
Right.
I'll tag. I wasn't paying attention, to be honest with you.
Great authenticity. I love it. That's everyone's gone.
Okay, cool. I thought so.
Yeah. Good. All right. So where should we go now? What's grounded you, Charlie?
The containers grounded me talking about boundaries, actually. I found when people were talking, I was reflecting back on my conversation with my daughter yesterday for the first time in 13 years. And it was, and actually, I had to keep my boundaries. I was finding, because she was 16 and she had loads of raw emotion, loads of raw questions, and really I had to just take that on board because that was her rawness. She's 16, still very vulnerable, still very 16, and that's how she was feeling. Whereas previously, if this had happened while I was in active addiction and alcoholism, I would have thrown that back on and said it wasn't my fault. It was your mum. It was their fault. It was because you moved away. But I know today that the person that I was 15 years ago the person I am now. So, and how she was feeling, I just had to accept that. And there was times where I wanted to jump in and frap and go, no, I never did it. I didn't do this. But no, because of what I've learned about myself and because of the work that I've done in myself in the last 21 months, I knew to just, to kind of accept my side of what had happened, actually, and give her some of the questions that she was looking for. But ultimately, what I had to show her that I've always loved her and I've never stopped loving her. But I also had to explain to her the truth. I had to tell her that I was an alcoholic. I really told her that from about the first hour in. I said, Melissa, I was an alcoholic and I am an alcoholic. I'm now. And I found that really hard to tell like someone who was 16. I didn't know how she was going to take that because I tell other adults, I've never told someone who's 16 or someone who I've not seen for 13 years since she was 3. So I found that I didn't know how she was going to take that. In actual fact, she was like, oh yeah. So when I said to that I was an alcoholic, and now I try and help other alcoholics to stop drinking, she kind of took that on board, and I was like, oh, that was a lot easier than what I thought it was. But it was really important for me to show that I wasn't the person when she was younger, even though she doesn't have any memories. But her mum has kind of tarred me and that, and I had to accept my side of that, man, as well, because I was a bastard back then. I was that person. So I had to accept my side of the street. I had to accept my responsibility, man, in all this, and I find that quite easy. You could do. I find that easier to accept my responsibilities than what I would have done. What I accepted no responsibility in my during addiction. So regarding my boundaries with my daughter, I had to try and remain quite calm, quite adulty, and I don't want to sound like professional, but I had to be like quite a professional adult, so like not to scare her off. Does that make sense what I've said there? To show that I'm not that chaos that I was, because I was chaos. I was chaos personified. I was vile when I was drinking. So I almost had to, I don't say put on a mask, but it was kind of like that, to show them that I am now a responsible adult and I can be an adult. So that's what. But ultimately, and every morning for the past 4 mornings now that I've been in touch with her, I've just sent her a wee message saying, "Good morning, how are you?" Yeah.
So you're really recovering the role of being a father.
Yes, and I did say that to her, actually. I said, I don't know how to be a dad, but
that's fantastic, Charlie. And I'm just trying to think where to place this. This wonderful story of restoration between father and daughter. When I hear it, it triggers my relationship with my daughter, my firstborn, which I didn't see for many years. And so I got that going off in the background. So that's where I'm at. But I do like the way that you said I had to pretend to be a professional father. I really like that. It's like practicing that role. But that's another perfect example of boundaries. It's like my kids will say to me, "Dad, don't fucking coach me. Stop that shit. I'm not I'm their father. Yeah. with all my shortcomings and assets. Yeah. And that's another kind of professional role that I have to try and maintain. And I have family members always coming and asking me about the crisis that's going on, and this one, oh, this one knows this one, oh, you must find my brother, he's this and that. It was like, oh, for fuck's sakes, people, you know. So yeah, where should we go?
I think it's really good, Charlie, that you've actually held your hands up and said, look, this was me. And I think by telling her that you don't know how to be a dad, you've opened up to her and you've said to her, you know, I'm learning, we'll learn together kind of thing. You've left it open, and you've been honest, and you've said, I don't know what I'm doing. And I think she'll want double pocket money, but yeah, I think it's a good thing. But yeah, I think it's good that you've kind of left yourself vulnerable, but at the same time, you know, you've let her know. You haven't lied to her, you've been honest. I think that's a really good thing, because I think when I was in addiction, when I came out of addiction, I started overcompensating for my behaviours, and I had to put boundaries in, you know. But yeah, me and my kids learned about addiction together and recovery, and we still are. And it's good to do it together because you've both been through it from different ends.
So where in your professional role do you overcompensate because of your lived experience? And that's a question to everyone.
Yeah. Well, for example, when I was in recovery, it took me time to build up relationships with my kids, because it was like, oh, here she goes again, give her a month, you know, and I had to accept that. But also I was finding myself giving in to them a lot, and, you know, just overcompensating for the lack of time or the time that I'd wasted. But I also put boundaries in there, as in, like, my youngest, he's 15, and like, if he wants money, he gets his pocket money. It comes out his pocket money, or he earns it. But before, I was like, yeah, there's 20 quid, there's 30 quid, you know, just simple boundaries like that. But I'm still there for them, and I'm also still a mum.
Yeah, I'm just going into shame here because I'm terrible with that with my kids. My youngest one especially. He's got me so wrapped around his finger.
You make a rod for your own back, though.
What was that?
You make a rod for your own back that way.
What does that mean?
You're a glutton for punishment. It means, like, because for my kids, when they were younger, like at Christmas, this is just an example, I didn't go overboard. They didn't get mountains of presents, doesn't matter how much money I had, because they learned to appreciate that, you know, that's what they got because next year I might not be able to afford all that. So they didn't expect it. So I don't know. For me, I get called evil, but like dummies, for example, I wouldn't give my kids dummies because you're taking it away later on. What's the point? You know, it's that kind of, I don't know. I'm evil. I'm just like, why? You know, just you make a rod for your own back. Expectations. And my kids have what they need, they earn what they want. And I just think that's a rule I was taught as a kid. But they're the boundaries I've got with my kids. It's gone quiet. I am evil.
Not evil at all. I don't have children, but I can relate to this in a flipsy topsy way, because I have no boundaries with my mother, because I feel I put her through so much shit during the years.
Yeah.
And I lost my dad a year ago, so she's on her own now. I do have a brother and sister, but I feel that I've got to be the one who speaks to her every day, even when I have not got time or the brain capacity to listen. You know, that I can feel myself getting frustrated, and then I get cross with myself for getting frustrated because I think, oh my God, the stuff I put her through and she stood by me, you know, I now have to reciprocate this, but I go above. You know, no one speaks to their mum every single day, at least twice a day, and listens to their crap. You know, it's not a normal thing, but I do it because in my head it's my living amends, and I have a real problem putting that boundary in place. I can do it with other people, but my mum, a little bit different. It's a hard one.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's forever speaking to her mum.
It's okay if you have a really great relationship. Not so much.
But she's not someone who identifies as being in recovery.
Mm.
And I find a lot of behavior happens. I don't know how else to say it other than to kind of fumble along, but it kind of happens to people that you know, have lived experience with addiction or something, but it also happens to people who haven't. It's just a normal behavior that is happening, and sometimes because of substance abuse or use or whatever in the past, we can think that that behavior is a result of or connected in some way, which I also don't think is ideal.
Building a healthy relationship, isn't it?
It's a good point because, yeah, sometimes I think we can put things down to our addiction when actually maybe it might have happened anyway. You know, kind of use it as a catch-all, if you like. You know, I do this because of what I've done in the past or because of who I am. I don't know. Yeah, it's
That's the
interesting.
in addiction as well. I'm drinking because.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, for me anyway.
So what do you do when your clients abdicate responsibility and blame it on their disease? I'm an addict, what do you expect?
Yeah.
I'm an alcoholic, what do you...
And it's always because of this. I'm an addict. So it goes back and forth.
Yeah, it's the justification, it's the rationalization, all that sort of stuff. So when you're working with someone, yep, you know, and you can hear the story coming back, yeah. How do you look after yourselves? That was a question, eh?
That's a tough one.
What's tough about it?
I mean, for me, I would. Sorry, go on, Emma.
No, that's okay.
Let's go with you, Jet. Let's go with you, Jet.
Yeah, I mean, I would always flip it, and I don't know if this is the right way or not, but I'd always say, at what point are you going to take responsibility for your actions rather than your disease, because you're the one that picked up? Or I don't know if that's the right way to do it. It's the way I've sort of approached that bit where they blame the disease for every single thing that they've done. And that's the difficulty in it. There's a fine line, I think, but I could be wrong. I need someone to nod and say, yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah, I would agree.
So, Jet, I feel your struggle.
It's not easy. It's tough because, again, you take it case by case, and you judge that person on whether they're willing to hear the truth or not. You know, because at some point you do have to take even a tiny hint of responsibility of not doing something. For example, phoning a doctor. Oh, I didn't phone the doctor because I got a disease. I've been drunk, or this, that, and the other. And yeah, I don't know. I'm digging a hole here. So someone say something.
So first of all, Jet, yeah, there's no right or wrong here.
Mm,
So let's just get that ghost out of the room. Nobody's gonna fucking say, Jesus Christ, Jet, how can you say that? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
That is not gonna happen in this classroom. We're all learning, yeah. And then there's the stages of change model, yeah, which goes pre-contemplation, contemplation,
yeah.
action, relapse, maintenance. It's something like that, yeah. And when you're engaging, it's also having boundaries to kind of work out where that person is at. The only rule that I would say is always be compassionate.
Mm.
That's the only thing that I would, and because my background was quite fucking confrontational and
Yeah.
harsh, the kids were taken away and put in care, and it was like fuck. And I guess they should have, in a way. I don't know, but I've always wanted more compassion in this space.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Where it's harm in it. So yeah.
I always like to sort of push it back to them and use a touch of humor. That's just my way.
That's
And
great, right?
you know, if they, for instance, you know, well, I'm drinking because my partner left me, and I like say, well, how'd that work out for you then? How did the drinking solve that problem for you? And then it gets them to really think about that. You know, it may not be an answer they want to hear right there and then, but it gets the cogs turning.
Yeah. So that's a great open question. Yeah. How is that working out for you? How is drinking related to your relationship? As opposed to, of course, your partner left you. You're fucking drunk. What'd you expect? Charlie, you wanted to say something a moment ago and I cut you off. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I'm used to you cutting me off, David.
Oh, listen,
what I forget what I was going to say. Yeah, so I find because I found a solution in Alcoholics Anonymous, and you know, in my solution, I was a higher power, which is nature. I find in Alcoholics Anonymous that meetings, that the 90% of meetings still make people sick. Because I find that the meetings become the problem because they're sitting in the problem, talking about their problem. And for Alcoholics Anonymous, it's how I've had to take a side step away from Alcoholics Anonymous, even though I do go to a couple of meetings a week, because they don't tell them the truth. They have them sitting in these meetings talking about their problems or talking about them in their past, when we have a solution in Alcoholics Anonymous. And from my experience, it's because they're not doing the work. It's because they're not being given the work, or they're being told what they want to hear. They're not being told the actual truth. And they say, like in Alcoholics Anonymous, the biggest secret is a big book, because most of the people don't know that there is a solution, and it's in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah. And I find it absolutely bizarre. I find it absolutely bizarre that I don't know the percentage, but I would say it was over 90% of Alcoholics Anonymous keep themselves sick. And it absolutely does my nothing. It does my nothing. It really, it does. And it does my nothing even more because they blame the disease. And I get this. And I do come case by case. I would never say to someone, it's because you're not doing what you're doing. No, no, I will come at them with compassion and humour, man. Katie had said, in more cases than not, it's because they don't want to do the hard work. They don't want to do these beautiful steps that are on the wall. They don't want to know what the disturbance is that they're feeling inside. So they'll go to these meetings and they'll just sit in their problem for like 18, 20 years. I've known people just sit there and go, oh, it's because of my alcoholism. It's because of my disease. It's because I'm an alky. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You've got a solution there. It's not because of that. First and foremost, you're a human being. You're a human being first and foremost. And if you put in the work, you can have the life that you can have any life you want if you start to do the work. Obviously, like, I can't speak like this in Alcoholics Anonymous because, I'd probably get chucked out. I can't. What's that?
Why can't you speak like that?
Because you just can't. People don't want to know the truth. They would rather have the numbers in the room. They'd rather have the numbers in the room than tell people the truth. They would rather have the numbers in the room and keep people sick, or they would rather have the numbers in the room and not even speak about the steps, or not even speak about the big book. They call these meetings share meetings, where they share about their problem, and that's fine. I get that, but there needs to come a time, and I feel if you're attending Alcoholics Anonymous for I don't know, a certain amount of time, I don't know what that time will be because everybody's an individual, but there needs to come a time where I believe where you need to step up to the plate. Why are you coming to Alcoholics Anonymous? It's because more or less you've got a problem with alcohol, or you're an alcoholic like me. So
how much passion do you think Charlie's carrying right now?
A lot.
Personally, personally, I love it because I'm a what they call a big book thumper too, Charlie. And,
right.
For me, I have found that solution, but I have to, but I have to temper it within my professional work, and sometimes that I find that an issue. I can find that an issue because I'm with you all the way on everything you've just said.
Yep. Okay. Lisa, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I've sort of had to remind people of that sometimes because it's a choice, isn't it? If someone wants to be involved in that, they can be involved. Likewise, their decision needs to be respected. So whether I choose to follow a particular path doesn't mean that they have to do the same one. I think that's a big part of it as well. It's going back to the individualism, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I totally agree with what you said as well, Charlie. There's good there, but there's also a lot of bad, and I think it's a little bit, what's the word I want to say? I feel like sometimes the book gets in the way of the humanity part where you would help people naturally anyway, whereas with that sometimes I feel like it's if you're not going to do it this way, it's your own fault, or you've got to follow it this way, that way, or there's suggestions and they're pros and cons, but I accept that, and I have a view, and your view will be different, Kate's view will be different, everybody's view is going to be different, but that's fine. I respect that too, and I think that's where we need to be in a way, isn't it? As coaches, we just need to be open to other people's, I don't know, perceptions and things, isn't it?
Yeah.
So one of the boundaries is, and one of the principles, I think that's the right word, is that there are multiple pathways to recovery. Yeah. I used to just think that that's a soft mamby-pamby word. Yeah, multiple pathways, but really you got to fucking do it this way, man. But yeah, we'll do I've had to unlearn that sort of thinking myself. Emma, you were going to come in?
I can't remember what now.
All right.
I think it was how you would. I mean, I think I'm going back a bit here, but trying to get people to understand the actual, yeah, you've got all these problems all in the outside, but the actual problem in not being able to cope with the other problems. And for me, that was my drinking.
So there's yeah, carry on, sorry.
I think with me, it was identifying that the problem was drinking. And all the other problems were still there. It doesn't matter if I drank or I didn't drink. And once I realised, like, if I get rid of the drink, then everything else I need to learn to cope with. And I think that's what I do with the client is, like, obviously I'd let them say their piece, but at some point, do you say to them, right, but that's the problem? Do you point that out, or do you let them come to that conclusion?
But I don't actually maybe disagree with that a little bit, because I do think that everybody's primary is maybe not the drink part.
Yeah.
And it might be a means to an end of something else. Do you know what I mean? So I think even that, I think again, is where you need to be careful and keep an open mind, because it might not be that came first.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like, that was the personal, like, that's how I dealt with it. But with the client, you'd have to sit there, wouldn't you? And like, every case is individual, like you said.
I always see alcohol or drugs as the solution to the living problem.
Yeah.
That's how I just look at it. You know, a solution to my human condition that is I'm not comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think no matter where it comes from, that's kind of it, isn't it? You know, seeking something else to change how you feel inside.
So let's just bring it back to this container. Are we still learning about coaching in lived experienced organizations? And the topic has been around professional boundaries and when to share and when not to share, when to play it by ear, case by case scenario. Yep. And then when Charlie started talking about the community in AA, for want of a better word, staying focused and stuck in the problem, I think that's a real challenge that lives within the system. And there's a thing called internal oppression, external oppression and internal oppression. And internal oppression is once the oppressor has gone, you're no longer oppressed anymore. You've taken on the beliefs of the oppressor. So it happens in race work. It happens in gender work. It happens in all sorts of areas. And I've seen it particularly in the fellowships where people have come together where they've been oppressed. They've all fucking had traumatic lives. They've all bonded around, we've got this common disease. And you think you're ready for a relationship now? No, you can't. Well, you think of that. The oppressed community keeps themselves small. So that's something else that we just need to be kind of be aware of.
I mean, I'm sorry to bring this back about AA, but it's the probably all man I know at the moment, and this is why, man, I'm doing the recovery coaching, because I like what you said, David, about the multiple paths to recovery, because I want to broaden my horizon in this recovery sector. And one of the things I was told in the first 6 months of AA was not to be in any sort of relationship within 2 years. And I was like,
who's gone up to 2 years?
Who makes these rules up? And and I was like, what have I joined? And like, not to make any major decisions in my 2 years. And I'm like, No, that's not going to happen. You know, and that oppressive thing that you were talking about, they're just full of these we scenarios.
Well, they're kind of suggestions that have become rules, that have become like part of the very kind of concretized culture. You know, Jung said on his deathbed, I don't know how true it is, but he said he would hate to be seen by a Jungian analyst. And I often wonder what, like, you know, Bill Wilson or Dr. Bob would think if they came back here and saw what happens in, yeah. Anyway, so let's like boundaries, yeah. And managing our own stories and mea culpa. I was a 12-step Nazi for many years. But I mean, proper, like fucking, like, you know, that was like the traditions were the answer to every problem in the world, you know. And yeah, but I slowly kind of realized, shit, what I'm doing is I'm just a normal human being. And then I started to see how unhealthy normal human beings are as well at times. I must admit, Kai, every time that light goes off, I go, oh, fuck, I've pissed him off. I've pissed him off. I've always got this anxiety living inside me. It's like, fuck, am I boring people? Is this making sense? Is this adding benefit?
Don't worry, I'm not annoyed at you. I'm just annoyed at whoever thought a motion detector light was a good idea.
No. I get a sense of relief every time it comes back on and you kind of roll back to your screen. Okay. All right, so let's start capturing some of the takeaways. Katie, is this your third class or fourth?
It's my fourth.
Well done. Okay.
Yay.
And are you going through the online material at all?
I've got, well, I don't know if it's an issue because I think I can just carry on with it anyway, but I registered and I was meant to get the email to confirm, to verify, and I didn't get that. So, but I guess I can just carry on with the stuff, get on with the stuff anyway.
Yeah, and no pressure. I'm just asking out of curiosity.
Yeah, no, I like to. I like the learning. I will moan about it afterwards, but I do like doing it.
Yeah, no, that's fine because Charlie, Emma, and Kai have all done the 3 days already, and you're on the path of like, well, we're doing this part first, then we'll do the 3 days. So I'm yeah.
Emma, do we need to do that online training? Emma, David.
So if you so to get accredited, certified, you have to jump through those hoops.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And that's another boundary. That's a professional boundary that I've got to hold students to. It's like, fuck, if you want a certificate and get certified, you got to sign the code of ethics. You've got to do this, you've got to do that. And you get so much resistance from it. And I feel like Kai does. I feel like a dick fucking having to enforce it. But if I don't enforce it, it takes away from the integrity of the role of the professional recovery coach. Like, you can say, I've got lived experience and I've done a professional training around that. Lisa, you got your hand up?
I feel I need to add something here around what we made our volunteers were being really rubbish with the mandatory training. And as they're volunteers, it's really hard to hold them to account. So the carrot we dangled was that they wouldn't be allowed to do the recovery coaching course unless they'd all done their mandatory training, the onboarding and stuff. You could not believe how quickly they've done it now. That's all we could do, dangle that one, because we haven't really got anything else we can hold them to account to there. So we're like, well, we're not going to spend the money and do it if you're not going to do your bit. So, yeah.
Well done. That's the other challenge that organizations have, where people are volunteers. Often volunteers can abdicate responsibility and say, oh fuck, I'm just a volunteer, and then they drop the professional side of the role, and it becomes quite difficult to manage, because I'm a volunteer, and I think a lot of that dysfunction can happen in service positions in the fellowships. Like, the fellowships are guided by the 12 steps, the 12 traditions, and then the 12 concepts. And the idea is the 12 steps protect me from me, the 12 traditions protect me from you, and the 12 concepts protect us from each other. And it's a wonderful thing that's created this organization that will survive based on people volunteering. However, there are a lot of shortcomings, and the world is starting to wake up to that as well. And we could go into the whole harm reduction abstinence argument, which is just exhausting. All right. So I've really enjoyed today's class. Thank you all for coming. It really is very beneficial for me, and thank you for letting me record it. Katie, thank you for building the container twice. Would you like to close it off for us, to get everyone to check out and to say what they've heard? And is there any homework that people want to do?
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the session. I've got a lot from it. It makes me recognize where my boundaries can lay within my personal and my professional life, and it's good to hear other people sharing on that. And I feel even less irritated than I did when I came in today. So homework for this week is work on yourselves. How about that? And I'm going to tag Emma.
Thank you. I found it really interesting. Like, it's good to get other people's side of things, and sometimes when you think twice and you second guess yourself and stuff, it's good to get somebody else's interpretation of what you're trying to get out of your brain, if that makes sense. But yeah, thank you. It's been a good meeting. And I will tag Kai.
Yeah, I'm checking out. Good. I think it was quite a good session, because I haven't had too much work yet, sort of on boundaries within, like within the organization. So I've got that training lined up type of thing, but I've been given a sort of general guideline, but it's good to hear sort of a bit more about the topic, if that makes sense. So, like, because I've only sort of got that general outline, it's nice to hear other people's thoughts on it, other people's sort of struggles and experiences with, setting, keeping, and stuff like that. So I've enjoyed it. Yeah. I'll tag Simon.
Thanks. Yeah, good session. I think especially that second half, what I've got out of it is it's about offering someone choices and let them know what choices are out there. And that's one of the better ways of kind of coaching. So yeah, I've enjoyed it. Thank you. I'll tag Charlie.
Thanks, Simon. I'm checking out Passionate after my rant about the solution in AA. I love getting a good bit of passionate there. I know I'm checking out Very Much Grounded. I love this on a Thursday afternoon. It really does hit the spot. And I have learned that I'm still a terrible people pleaser, but it was nice to hear about other people's boundaries and how they set them. So yeah, so thank you very much, guys. And I choose who to go. Lisa?
Hello. Yeah, I think for me today, it's around meeting the person where they're at. So where we've talked about boundaries and people being in different stages of recovery, whether they're absent, whether they're not, you know, whether they're intoxicated, and protecting ourselves and protecting them. I think, you know, as individuals, we have to make a call, don't we? Like we do with other stuff, we have to meet them where they are at that time, and sort of gauge it ourselves. And also another thing I've taken is listening. Listening is the key to this, not necessarily the solution part. It's like the listening is the main thing. Who hasn't checked out? Is anyone else? David hasn't. Oh, Jit.
Yeah, for me, the thing around boundaries, the whole conversation in both parts of it was quite important, because it's one of those subjects I sort of put on the back burner, and I procrastinate when I need to start thinking about it because my head hurts. So yeah, it's too much hard work. It's too much hard work. That's always my answer to it, so I don't do it. So yeah, actually understanding, listening that everyone else struggles with this, and I'm not the only one, then yeah, it's okay to feel like that, but I still need to do it. So yeah, I'm trying to bring, that's my homework, I think. At least put one in somewhere.
So your homework's to put in one boundary somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I've just picked the phone up, my recovery phone. This is the recovery phone. And that should be a boundary when I'm on a course. I shouldn't pick that up because that can wait.
Great stuff. All right, everyone. Well, I check out with a lot of joy and relief, and I'm very grateful that you're all here and we're working this out together. Very grateful for that. Yeah, I'm continuing to learn all the time. So thank you all very, very much. I will see you all next week.
You will.
Yes.
Any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out. Okay.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you,
See you
everyone.
next week, guys.
Have a good
Bye.
week.
Bye.
Bye.